Thank you for staying with us on the conversation. Once again, the conversation this morning is the APC National Convention Consensus, of course, which took place over the weekend. We all know that we are in the season of politics already, and major political parties in the country are already putting their house in order ahead of the 2027 general elections. We saw that of the APC over the weekend, and of course, going through so many newspapers this morning, the ruling party was criticized for adopting the consensus system of candidacy during the convention that was just concluded in the Federal Capital Territory. Of course, I saw the Guardian this morning calling APC a party of a convention candidacy ritual, and of course, this day, calling consensus candidacy a political killjoy. We have a member of the party in the studio with us this morning. Of course, it was part of that convention. It will be telling us what actually happened at the convention venue, and how the party was able to reach that consensus agreement without creating factions here and there for the party. We have in the studio with us Tayo Orekoya. He's a politician, of course, and a political affairs analyst. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, Jibola. It's my great pleasure to be here.
And you're welcome back to Lagos.
Thank you.
So how did it play out at the national convention of your party, where we had over 8,000 delegates? At the end of the day, it was a consensus arrangement, and of course, we saw the chairman return, the party secretary, and a host of other executives of the party. And for those who are criticizing the adoption of consensus, what do you think might be the problem, and how were you able to manage the party in such a way that everybody agreed that these and these should be the ones to be the members of the National Working Committee of your party?
Okay, so thank you so very much. I want to say that the recently concluded National Convention of our party was a significant milestone in the annals of not just the APC, but party politics in Nigeria. It was a huge success, as you would have seen. And in my personal opinion, it achieved key major milestones. The first is the party leadership renewal. The second is reaffirmation of the party's unity. And then the third is the repositioning of the party as the biggest, most organized progressive party in the whole of Africa. So now, talking about the convention, I want you to understand that the convention is actually a culmination of the congresses that are started at the world level. We had the world congresses, from there, the local government congresses, the state congresses, and then the zonal congresses, the six geopolitical zones. And then you now have the national convention. Now, you see, when people speak about consensus, okay, maybe before I go there, let me speak to the convention proper. You see, if you look at the organization of the convention, you will see that it was top-notch. Everything went in order. Everything was structured, and you could feel the unity. You could feel it, right? You could see the excitement, you know. I mean, for a party that would be making history as having 31 governors, right, out of 36, you know, at its convention. Of course, I mean, that says a lot. And we didn't just get here overnight. It has been through, you know, the leadership and strategic direction of Mr. President, our leader, the party leader, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is changing the face of politics positively in Nigeria. And we are seeing what we have not seen before. Right. You see a party that is as large as the APC with 31 governors across the geopolitical zones, and then being able to come together, organize a successful national convention. Now, so we were able to elect the members of the National Working Committee. Beyond that, you will see that we were able to emphasize the unity of the party. I mean, there was no rancor, there was no dispute, right? And everything went according to plan. Not only that, we were able to send a notice to the opposition parties that we are far ahead, that we are repositioned to win the 2027 general elections. So for us, you would also see that there were quite a number of motions that were presented, moved, seconded, and adopted at the Congress, which also was part of the objectives of the convention. Okay. Now, you see, talking about the issue of consensus, I think the key issue is that a lot of people do not actually understand. They have a misconception about what consensus is.
Okay, Mr. Rika, let me hold your thought. You will probably break it down so that an average Nigerian would understand the concept of consensus candidacy. But I'd like for us to backtrack a bit and go to where you started from, which was the fact that all of the the National Convention was the finale of all the other conventions that had happened at the ward level, the state level, the congresses, I beg your pardon, the Congress, the ward level, state level, and then the zonal level. That's right. We also noticed that across all those levels, the issue of consensus started from those places, which meant probably to lay people like us who are not politicians, will be the fact that this was a deliberate move by the All Progressives Congress from all those levels until it culminated into the National Convention in Abuja. So break it down for us. Consensus candidacy. Was this primarily because the party wanted consensus candidacy across all board? Or was it because of the personality of the national leader of the party, who is also the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, looking at the facts that a lot of people respect his decision as a politician, a tactician? So was it really about Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as a leader of the party, or was it the belief of the APC in itself that we would go through consensus candidacy, whether or not people like it, whether or not people are happy? This is the stand of the party and it must be followed through.
Okay, so let me start by saying that, this is not just about the leader of the party. Okay. It's not just about Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. It's about the party. Okay. And I like to say that, this issue of consensus candidacy actually started from the ward congresses. Okay. Right. And I'll give you an example even of my own ward, of which I am the leader, right, in Ikeja here, Ujudu LCDA. When it came to the issue of the ward ESCO, right, the ward executive committee, right, we had these positions zoned. Okay. Now, when you say, we have 27 positions in all. Right. From the chairman to the secretary, so we have some key positions that are, for example, 6 of them are in the top layer. Okay. The chairman, the secretary, the treasurer, the organizing secretary, the youth leader, and the woman leader. Right. Those 6 positions are primo inter pares, first amongst equals. So you have them zoned across the 6 zones of the ward, right? And then the other positions, which are the next level, are like the principal officers, like, the publicity secretary, financial secretary, the auditor, before you go to the deputy, the
all of the assistants.
Okay, so we first classify these positions, and then we distribute them according to each of the 6 wards. Okay, so
fair representation.
Exactly. So talking about consensus, that's why I was saying that It's because most people don't understand what this concept is all about. So you now have a situation whereby the zone that has the chairman, for example, cannot have the secretary.
Right.
And then you have it right down. And then again, when it now comes to the elections, people indicated their intentions to run for the position of the ward chairman and the other positions. But again, you have the critical stakeholders at various levels. For example, at the ward level, we have what we call the ward apex leadership. Right? We come together, we look at the
those who declared their interest.
We first look at the positions themselves and see which zone should this go to. You have a zone, for example, in my ward, zone 2, that has produced the ward chairman, a ward chairman that has served 3 terms. You have another one that has produced the incumbent chairman who has served 2 terms. You have another one. So we begin to sift and then decide that, oh, these 3 zones would not have the chairman.
Right, because they've benefited
because they've
before
benefited.
now. Right.
Let's have another zone, right? Of the remaining 3 zones, who are the candidates that we have? Now, you see, consensus now brings together the leaders at the ward level, at the local government level. You also have the apex leadership, and then you have at the state you have
level.
the caucus, right? In Lagos, we have what we call the GAC, right? So these leadership come together. They look at each of the candidates. For example, at the ward level, we actually had to ask all the candidates now to come up to speak. And not only that, each of the leaders voiced out their opinions about them. And at the end of the day, it was possible to identify and say majority believes that this person will be able to deliver. Now, you see, that is not imposition. What we had before, which people try to link consensus with imposition, is not the case. In those days, what you will have is somebody will just say, oh, this is the person.
Okay, so others were not part of the process.
No. Right. But now, for consensus, you have that process. It's at various layers. And then, not just that, you find a situation whereby, at the end of the day, at the state level, we were able to do this. Not only that, the party took a decision that those incumbents that have served 1 term should be allowed to do a 2nd term. Okay. From the ward level, right from the ward to the state, to the local government, to the zonal. And that was what you saw play out even at the National Convention. Because, you see, APC is a most organized party. We are proactive. And when you have a strategic leader in the president who gives direction, right, then the membership of the party, and don't forget that at the convention, there was a motion that was moved to agree the mode of the election. Right. And it was passed overwhelmingly that we should do consensus.
I mean, everybody had an idea.
So I'm telling you that, no, before we go to the convention, it was like, it was a build-up. It's a build-up. Right. So, but what majority of Nigerians will see is, oh, the convention. And that's why I'm saying that. Look, and of course, you will see that as part of that policy, 22 out of the 25 members of the National Working Committee were returned because they have done a great job. Okay. They have done very well.
All right. I wouldn't know whether your party is the most organized party or not. Yeah. So with the picture that you have painted to us this morning, it does appear that it was a kind of party thing, because ordinarily one would have expected the party to allow these candidates to vie for these positions, elective positions, so to say. And that particular convention was meant to be an elective convention.
It was.
But it wasn't.
No, it was, and I'll tell you why it was.
Why was it
an because the Electoral Act stipulates 2 options. It's clear. Right. 2 options to elect. It could be direct primaries or consensus. Right. So we chose the consensus. So you cannot say
you saw this coming.
It is elected.
While members of the National Assembly were trying to amend the Constitution, you already played it out.
No. You see, one of the things also that probably people don't understand is, you see, the only other alternative is what we call indirect primaries. And indirect primaries is open to so much corruption. Right. And I'll explain it to you. I was a victim of indirect primaries.
Okay.
In 2003, I contested as an aspirant, right, under the ACN for the House of Representatives, Ikeja Federal Constituency. Right. Now, because through indirect primaries, you have a limited number of people,
Delegates
that are identifiable, right, that is possible to purchase. Right.
I like that word, purchase.
To purchase. And it goes to the highest bidder. Right. So it goes to the highest bidder. It's a question of, and I remember we had the primaries at the Women Development Center.
Agege.
There were 16 delegates. Before the primaries, I had 9 delegates
on your side.
On my side, that were people that I got elected, right,
as
to
delegates.
Become delegates.
Right.
However, we were about 7 aspirants, 7, and we had 16, of which I had 9.
So it was already sure for you.
I mean, you were sure
thought
that
it was sure.
I thought
You
it was
thought
sure.
it was sure.
Yeah. But between the primaries was postponed from a Tuesday to a Thursday for that primaries. Between Tuesday and Thursday,
you had lost how many
majority of a good number of my delegates had been bought over. Now, incidentally, I think eventually it was about actually 2 of them. So, but when we got there, you had, this person say, oh, I stepped down for this person, I stepped down for this person. And then by the time it remained 3 of us, 1 of us didn't have a vote at all. Then you now saw my own delegate, one of the guys, jumping from my side to this side, to this side. And at the end of the day, somebody had to shout. I remember, late Chief Mrs. Kevin Nelson, Cyril, stay in one place. Just stayed on the and that was 9-7.
Yeah.
So you see, that is, I'm giving you a vivid example
right.
of why this indirect primaries is subject to so much corruption.
Right. So for the politicians and for people like you, the consensus candidacy will probably be a better way to eliminate purchasing and then staying away from delegates who could be purchased from time to time. But how inclusive, genuinely, was this consensus candidacy? I mean, the picture you painted was a beautiful picture. It felt like, oh, it was perfect, and everybody bought into this consensus candidacy. But we know that men, human beings, but by saying men, I'm talking about human beings generally, we're insatiable. And sometimes we're not happy, but because we do not have a choice, we will join the crowd. So in your own opinion, as a politician, a card-carrying member of the APC, was this truly inclusive? And did it really have the buy-in of majority of the people who were not, for face value, just following the crowd because of what they also stood to gain at the end of the day?
Okay, so let me start by saying that, you see, there is no system that is perfect.
Right.
Right. Even when you do the direct primaries, you find out that it's usually rancorous.
Right.
Because you have quite a number of people that might not be controllable. Not only that, you have issues with the issue of the registration, the party register to be used. You have contentions around so many things. So I agree that, the consensus approach is not perfect.
Right.
There is no system really that is perfect. We are aspiring towards perfection. But one thing I can tell you is this. You see, if you belong to any association or organization, right, you have committed to abide by the policies, directives, and guidelines of that association. The point is that everybody cannot be happy at the same time.
Right.
It is not possible. No matter what you do, even within your family, you cannot satisfy even all your children together at the same time. So the fact remains that, yes, some people will naturally feel, unhappy. But again, what is important is how is the party able to manage discontent How is a party able to bring together its people, right? Conflict resolution mechanisms. Because wherever you have people, there must be dissent, there must be, I mean, people could be disgruntled. You cannot fault them for that. But again, what is also important is you should also ensure you're a loyal party member.
Okay.
You should ensure you follow, you know, they lay down guidelines,
principles of the party.
So that, I mean, you are able to get justice. And another thing that happens is that, you know, at times when these type of issues happen, you also find a situation whereby members are being rewarded or compensated.
Okay.
You know, you understand? For example, in my own case, like I mentioned earlier, we pursued this issue, you know, by going to the appeal committee, we went to the Southwest and all that. And at the end of the day, well, it was said that, okay, don't worry, I mean, something will be done and all that. And at the end of the day,
something was
done.
You had to
make it compensated.
You understand?
As a
loyal party member. But, you know, I stayed within the party, you know, so you don't have to go out there.
Okay.
You understand? So naturally, I mean, majority are happy with the consensus system.
Okay. With the conclusion of this convention now, it does appear that your party is ready for the 2027 general elections.
Right.
After the convention, we should be looking at the primaries now.
That's right.
At different states. So is the party still going to adopt this same style of consensus for governorship, National Assembly, State House of Assemblies?
Well, let me say at this point, it's too early to say that, right? Because we just had the new National Working Committee of the party, you know, elected, and they are going to sit down. They are going to prepare towards the primaries, putting together, you know, the processes, the procedures, expression of interest, the forms, you know, the
modalities,
amounts, and all those modalities. And again, you know, it's most likely that it will not be one size fits all.
Okay.
Right? You could have some places where consensus will work. You could have some places where direct primaries would have to work.
Okay.
So the party will take that decision at the appropriate time. But what I can say is that it's too early in the day to be able to say that, oh, we are going to use consensus across the whole nation. Because what works in Zamfara might not be what works for governorship or whatever in Ogun State, right? What works for House of Assembly in a particular state in Akwa Ibom might not work for House of Assembly.
Mr. Okra, let me quickly hold your thought. Ajibola, hold on, please. We need to take a commercial. When we return, Ajibola, you will lay down that question you were going to ask him, and then he'll conclude on issues surrounding what goes on after. Now, let's take this commercial break, and we'll be right back.